Rick said they don't want me to talk off the cuff. Neither does my team, because they know what that means.
You know, I was just talking about this earlier in a video, saying that one of the main reasons why so many people like Trump is because he goes off the cuff. He's not a president that just goes by the script. He goes off script all the time, and people like hearing what he has to say, or at the very least, they like the way he says things, because it's not the way that usual politicians say things, right? And like I said before, some people call it unpresidential, but that's what people like. People relate to that. People feel like you get more honesty. People feel like Trump is more genuine than your average politician, because he does not carry himself in a certain way that most politicians do. And he doesn't allow his advisors and his team to basically put him in this box where he can't say anything that he wants to say, and he can't be himself. You know what you're getting from Trump, regardless if you like it or not. You know what you're getting, and you know it's all Trump. But like you heard in this clip at the beginning of this video, Tim Walz, the Kamala Harris campaign doesn't want him going off the cuff anymore. They want him sticking to the teleprompter. They want him sticking to the script, because he's not capable of going off script, because when he does, he shows who he truly is, and no one would want to vote for who Tim Walz truly is. But it's not just the Kamala Harris campaign. Tim Walz admitted that it's his own team. His own team doesn't want him going off the cuff. His own team is telling him, hey, stick to the words that we have chosen for you to read. You say what we want you to say. You don't say what you want to say, because if you say what you want to say, there's no chance in hell that we win this election. Now imagine someone telling something like that to Trump. Do you think anyone's telling Trump that he can't go off cuff, that he can't go off teleprompter? Hell no. Trump's going to do what he wants to do. But I'm glad that Tim Walz is out here admitting the truth, because it shows how weak he is. It shows how fake he is. Meanwhile, we have another vice president we have another person running for vice president, J.D. Vance, and he seems to be the exact opposite of Tim Walz. J.D. Vance is all over the place, and I've had my criticisms. I'll admit I've had my criticisms, and I was not sold on J.D. Vance, but he's been doing one hell of a job. He's been out here doing interviews with anyone that wants him, talking to anyone, going into the lion's den, going into enemy territory, nonstop, every day, multiple times a day, going off cuff, going off script. J.D. Vance doesn't need a script. Tim Walz, they trot him out. He reads from a teleprompter for 10 minutes, and then you don't see him until the next event. J.D. Vance is everywhere, and he's not scared to go off cuff. He's not scared to take questions, and he actually just absolutely eviscerated the mainstream media not that long ago. Let's go ahead and roll this clip, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border? Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be. And I really find this exchange, Martha, sort of interesting, because you seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything that Donald Trump has said, rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs. I worry so much more about that problem than anything else here. We've got to get American communities in a safe space again. And unfortunately, when you let people in by the millions, most of whom are unvetted, most of whom you don't know who they really are, you're going to have problems like this. Kamala Harris, 94 executive orders that undid Donald Trump's successful border policies. We knew this stuff would happen. They bragged about opening the border, and now we have the consequences, and we're living with it. We can do so much better, but frankly, we're not going to do better, Martha, unless Donald Trump calls this stuff out. I'm glad that he did.
Do you hear yourself? Do you hear yourself? No, I don't think she hurt herself. In fact, I think she should resign. Like right then and there, when you get cooked like that, just with one sentence, you should just quit. You should quit your job. But yeah, imagine arguing. It's just a few. It's just a few apartment complexes that have been taken over by Venezuelan gangs. It's just a few pets that were eaten in Springfield by Haitian immigrants. It's just a few states run over by criminals from other countries. It's just a few, folks. It's just a few. Well, what happens when just a few turns into more? What happens when where you live becomes part of just a few? That's the question. Because the problem that we have here in America, folks, let me tell you one of our main issues here in America. One of our main issues is that we're such a big country. We're such a big country that people living in this state feel as if they're not affected by anything going on in another state. People think that because they live here, what goes on there doesn't matter. But folks, this stuff spreads like cancer. It spreads and it spreads. And if you think that you're living in an area that doesn't have gang members and dangerous people from God knows where pouring in, then you're wrong, because it's happening everywhere. Now, in some areas, it's happening slower than others. In some areas, you're not even aware that it's happening, but it's happening, folks. And it's only a matter of time before it's just a few apartment complexes in your city. Oh, it's just a few apartment complexes on that side of town that were taken over by gangs from another country. Don't worry about it. Just don't go on that side of town anymore. Oh, it's just a few kids that were killed by those gangs. Oh, it's just a few women that were R-worded by these illegal immigrants. This should show you that they don't care about you. They don't care about you at all. And if that is not clear, if the Democratic Party, if the Kamala Harris campaign has not made that clear, then nothing will. You will become another statistic. You will become another victim. It's just that simple. But for now, let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell. And if you find yourself getting too worked up by all of this, remember, it's just political cinema.